Hi everyone and welcome to our very first Q&A about Prague. In this video we are going to be addressing some of your most common questions about traveling here. Most of these questions we receive on our tours. We do run tours daily. I will link our website down below. And other questions come from Google search and some travel tips groups on Facebook. Question number 1. I think the most asked question online. Do I need cash in Prague? Yes. Yes is an easy answer. I will expand now. If you would ask a local this question, they would probably say no, because most locals just use cards or pay with their phones nowadays. But as a tourist, you might end up in certain situations where you will need cash. For example, if you want to use public restroom, you have to bring coins with you. And because it's quite an urgent, usually, situation, you just want to make sure that you always have some change with you at all times. Also, certain restaurants, cafes, shops, outside markets don't accept cards. It is pretty rare nowadays, but there are still some old school spots in Prague where they only accept cash. They usually put a sign up about it at the door or at the cash desk, but you never know. So if you're coming to Prague and you will need to get some cash, I will link a list of exchange places down below as well that we like and trust. Sort of. We don't have any personal relationship with any one of them. We just go to some of them pretty frequently, or we like the reviews. So this is the complicated answer to this question, do you need cash in Prague? Because online nowadays it might seem like you don't, because sometimes Visa pays for like a sponsorship where they say that, oh, you don't need cash at all in Prague, and this is not the case. Just ruthlessly came after Visa like that, but it can be any other company, but it's usually Visa. The next question is kind of related to money. Can I pay in euros in Prague? And the short answer, no, you can't, because euros is not the official currency here. The official currency is Czech crown. Some restaurants and shops accept euros at the rate of their own choice, which sometimes isn't great. So that's why I wouldn't say you can pay in euros in Prague. With public toilets though, they usually do accept euro coins. Next question is, what's the weather like? Pretty nice right now, about plus 17 degrees Celsius. A little bit windy, but pleasant. I'm joking, of course, but this is one of the most common questions about Prague. People are always asking, what's the weather like on the Prague travel tips groups. And yes, we made several videos about different seasons, but I do have to say that the weather here is pretty moody, so sometimes you cannot be 100% sure. Okay, now let's talk about medieval dinners and boat tours. These are two very popular activities that tourists are curious about. I feel like with boat tours, it's gonna be easier to explain because everyone knows what is a boat tour, so let's start with this one. As you guys might know, there is a big river that goes through the whole city center of Prague, which is called Vltava. And that river allows Prague Tourism to offer you a boat tour activity. There are different types of boat tours. There are ones that are 45 minutes long. There are boat tours that are up to 2 hours. There are boat tours that just offer snacks and refreshments. And there are boat tours that offer lunches and dinners. So the prices vary based on the length of the boat ride and the type of stuff they offer during the ride. However, if you have watched this video we made, you already know that boats have to go through locks. That means the boat goes into the lock for about 15 to 20 minutes. So when you're choosing a boat ride and you're gravitating towards the one that goes through the entire city center of Prague and back, that means you will be going through multiple locks. One lock takes 20 minutes, so you have to calculate those 20 minutes out of the whole boat ride. And then you will see the actual time that you will spend moving across the river. Hope that made sense, because what happens a lot of the times is that people book a boat ride and then they realize that they spent not half of it or maybe quarter of the time in a lock and they're disappointed. I don't want you to be disappointed, so just bear that in mind. There's one way of avoiding it though, and that's booking the boat ride that goes through only half of the city center. So if your boat ride is like 2 hours and you don't go through the whole city center, it means you will be going in circles the entire time. So you're going to be seeing the same stuff. Regarding food on boats, you get what you get and you don't get upset. From time to time, branches fall off trees. So I'm just hoping that it's not gonna fall on my head because it's gonna be quite painful. Now let's talk about medieval dinners. I think anyone can imagine what it is, but I will just specify. There's certain medieval-esque restaurants in Prague where you can go at any time and just enjoy the quasi-medieval atmosphere with your meal. However, there are also medieval restaurants that offer program. That means you usually pay extra because there's gonna be certain show. For example, a woman belly dancing with a snake, which is very medieval because there were pythons in Prague here in the 14th century. And there are also men doing some like fire show sometimes, or juggling, something like that. It's honestly up to the fantasy of the organizers what they do. But it's entertainment. So when that happens, they're selling a ticket that includes the program and multiple course meal, and then they cram tourists into their restaurant. So you will not be sitting alone, most likely you will be sitting at a table with other people, and they're bringing you food and providing the entertainment in the alley between the tables. Another thing is that sometimes staff is intentionally rude to you. I'm not sure really how to explain it, but I guess that's because they're trying to reenact the atmosphere of the medieval tavern, where nobody was mincing their words, according to the organizing team, and people were more crude and straightforward. So it can happen that the waiter, who is dressed as a medieval man or a butcher or something like that, will not be serving you a meal politely. They will be just kind of throwing it at a table and yelling something at you, and that's on purpose, but I do think they enjoy it. Editing Valerie here, just wanted to expand on this topic a little bit because I found out that U Krále Brabantského, which is a medieval restaurant below the Prague Castle, does not allow its customers to use cutlery. That's right, you will be required to eat your medieval dinner with your bare hands. And on top of that, they are intentionally rude to their customers, sometimes calling them a princess because they ask for a fork. But yeah, their bad reviews come from people who were not aware they paid to be offended. Also, once Václav told me that when he was little, they went to a medieval dinner with his family. It was not a restaurant in the city center of Prague, it was, I think, outside of Prague. And they also had a certain activity there during the medieval dinner when they were locking the customers in a cage. Is that correct, Václav?
That's correct. And they hang them in the middle of the restaurant, and they would usually choose a random woman, hang her in the middle of the restaurant, and it was part of the show.
Oh.
And one Polish tourist, it was a Polish lady, started crying, and she had to leave the restaurant.
God. Imagine you wanted to enjoy your dinner with the family and then one of you is ripped away, put in a cage. That's great. I mean, is it very medieval? I guess it is very medieval, but do you want to do that when you're paying a lot of money? Because usually these medieval dinners are pretty expensive.
But they don't do this in Prague because they know that the tourists are weak, unlike Czech people.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so don't worry. If you are going for a medieval dinner in the city center of Prague, nobody is gonna lock you up in a cage. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna enjoy the rest of your meal. Another very popular question. Is Prague safe? Is it safe at night? Is it safe for solo female travelers? Or just solo travelers as well? Prague is one of the safest cities in Europe, still. For sure, one of the safest cities that I've ever been. To be fair, I haven't been to a lot of places, but I've never felt unsafe in Prague. Even at night, when sometimes I would walk home after like a concert or something, really late at night, alone, maybe take a metro or a cab, never felt unsafe. However, we did make a video about dangerous spots in Prague, and this video is pretty valid, but it doesn't mean that these areas are just like the Wild West when somebody would attack you as soon as you step your foot on Anděl soil, even though some locals would disagree with me. But it means that there are certain areas where a lot of like sketchy people hang out. Usually they're gravitating towards certain metro stations. Locals do know about it and we kind of just like ignore it and walk past them. We definitely don't try to strike up a conversation with a person who looks intoxicated. That's just a no-go. So if you're really worried that you are not going to be able to navigate in those situations, check out that video and we explain everything there. Sometimes people complain about the pickpockets. On my tours it happened only once that somebody was pickpocketed, and that happened on the metro to a girl who had cross-shoulder bag. And she had it open and at the back somewhere. So she wasn't even looking at it, and that's when it happened. So yeah, just be careful about that. If you are wearing a bag or a backpack in the public transport, I would recommend keeping it in front of you. What we do, for example, when we are in the metro, And we have the backpack, we just take it off and we hold it here the whole time. It's also convenient because you will not be bumping into other passengers with the backpack. So yeah, these are just some safety measures, but otherwise Prague is very safe. Is Prague Castle the largest castle in the world? I think a lot of people don't believe tour guides in Prague when they hear it from them. But yes, according to Guinness Book of World Records, Prague Castle is the largest ancient castle complex in the world. If you don't agree, you can file a complaint to Guinness Book of Records and ask them to change it, but I doubt they will. From my own guiding experience, I think people are doubtful of this statement because they were on other tours elsewhere in the world and they've been told by tour guides there that their castle is the largest ancient castle in the world. Definitely happened to me with people who traveled here from Poland and they've been to this amazing Teutonic castle there. Haven't been there but really want to go. It looks cool. Malbork. Am I butchering it? Polish people, please correct me in the comments. And then people obviously bring Windsor Castle up, Versailles, a bunch of other places. But this is not according to just tour guides' opinion in Prague, guys. It's according to Guinness Book of Records. So yes, Prague Castle is the largest ancient castle complex in the world. And the next question is related to that. How to get to the Prague Castle? Because Prague Castle is on top of the hill and that looks like a challenge to most people. I would say the easiest way is to take a tram number 22 or 23 and get off at one of the stops around Prague Castle. If you're here in summer, I recommend getting off at this stop. This is the Summer Palace of Queen Anne. You can enter Prague Castle through the royal gardens and it's very beautiful, picturesque, loads of photo opportunities there, and one peacock, just one. And if you're here in winter, just take the tram to Pražský hrad or Prague Castle tram stop, get off there and you are in the Prague Castle, pretty much. Very easy. I wouldn't recommend taking a cab. It's usually pretty confusing. So if you take a cab, make sure you will know where you are getting off. Also, you cannot call a cab to the castle premises because this is the seat of the Czech president. So there's a lot of military and police there, and taxis are not allowed inside unless you are some kind of very famous politician. Then maybe you will be allowed inside. Otherwise, no. You can also walk to the castle if you are up for a little bit of a steeper climb, and you can do that through Nerudova Street. And also there are two staircases. Old castle steps and new castle steps. And you want to hear something funny about that? Old castle steps is actually newer than the new castle steps. Doesn't make any sense. The next question is kind of related to what I just said. Is Prague walkable? Yes, but there are hills and cobblestones. So bear that in mind, bring comfortable shoes, take breaks, drink water. Take care of yourself. It's a motivational video now. I'm Gary V. I'm Valerie V. Oh god, am I losing it already? There's been so many questions. So yes, Prague is walkable. The city center is pretty compact. I would say that you can walk across the whole city center in one day for sure, even less probably. But you don't want to rush. Take your time. Enjoy the views. Is Prague water safe to drink? Yes, it is. We drink tap water all the time. All the time. We rarely buy water in like bottled water in the stores. We just like keep one gross bottle and we keep refilling it with water. Okay, we do change it from time to time. Tap water is absolutely safe to drink. Is Prague expensive? That depends where you are coming from, my friend. There are countries where it is for sure cheaper than here, and there are countries where it is more expensive. It definitely used to be cheaper. Prague used to be praised as one of the top budget destinations for travelers in Europe. I wouldn't say it is that budget friendly anymore. In fact, the Prague plan, the grand scheme behind the Prague tourism, is to make it a luxury destination, which a lot of us are baffled about it. Like, how are they going to achieve that? What does it even mean? Does it mean that they're just gonna raise prices for everything and then call it luxury? Is that how it works? So yeah, I definitely urge you to travel here if you are on a budget, because we don't know what's it gonna be like very soon. We've got a very complicated question. Is Prague Catholic, or in general, what is the main religion here? Here we are. So we were joking about it with our guides that we should order these caps and wear them on our tours. We find them funny. We normally don't talk about these topics on our channel, but I think we are safe here to mention that Czech Republic and Prague, of course, is not a very religious place, even though you can clearly hear church bells in the background. And that beautiful rotunda, right? But that doesn't mean anything, guys, nowadays. Most people are either atheist or agnostic. And yeah, it's kind of surprising, right? Because there are so many churches here. For a very long time, the country was Catholic, then it was very Protestant, then Catholics said no, and it became Catholic again. That's kind of the gist. A lot of people say it's because of communism, maybe partially yes. I think it's also because all of these religious violent disagreements between Catholics and Protestants here. So yes, Czech Republic is one of the most atheist countries in Europe. I'll have a little bit of fun here with some of these questions because I found them to be hilarious. Is Prague in Romania? Is Prague in Rome? Is Prague Denmark? What? These all come from Google searches. Is this because the buildings here are pretty and they look like buildings in Denmark and people just like visualize the buildings and then they remember Denmark and they thought surely Prague's in Denmark? I'm not sure what's up with Prague and Romania. What's the connection between Prague and Romania? There are no vampires. I'm sorry, Romanians. You're probably tired of the vampire jokes, right? They probably suck out the living life out of you. Have you seen What We Do in the Shadows? That's such a vibe. I want to be Nadia.
I hate this goat.
Is Prague in Rome? That one takes the cake. Is Prague Rome? Is Prague in Rome? Is Rome in Rome? Is Rome in Prague? Is Prague Jewish? I also didn't get that question much, but there's a Prague Jewish quarter, and it is one of the most preserved Jewish quarters in Europe. So if you want to visit it, you can. There are a bunch of synagogues and the old Jewish cemetery, but one thing to remember, guys, is that it's closed every Saturday, because I cannot count how many times people would call us and say, can we please go to the Jewish quarter today? And I would look in the calendar and it's Saturday and I'll be like, no, you can't. And they're like, why not? Well, you know. Is Prague gay friendly? I would say yes. There's gay pride every year. There are a bunch of like gay bars and gay clubs. Is Prague famous for nightlife? I don't party at all. I don't go out. So it's hard for me to answer this question, but there are definitely a lot of people who go out here. There are a lot of clubs, bars. I think we've already mentioned it on our channel. But when you talk to a local and you say nightclub, it means strip club. Just FYI. So if you're looking for a club where you want to go dancing or drinking, that's just a club. A very outdated question. I think it was answered many times, but people still ask it. Is Prague legal for weed? Weed is decriminalized in Prague. It's different, so it's not legal, definitely. So when you go to these like stores where they sell like cookies with pot plant on it, that's just CBD. Is Prague vegan friendly? I, for some reason, was laughing at that question. I don't know why. It was such a funny image in my mind that some city can be unfriendly to vegans, you know, like get away from me. Like torches and pitchforks. Get in here and eat that svichkova and goulash. So yeah, I would say yes, Prague is vegan friendly, because also it's kind of funny if it wouldn't be vegan friendly. It's like a big banner in the airport. No vegans here. Get away from us. There are a lot of vegan restaurants and vegetarian restaurants. Again, if you need some recommendations, we will link it down below. Is Prague known for chocolate? No, it is not known for chocolate. Is there a chocolate museum and a bunch of chocolate shops and candy stores all over Prague? Yes. Is it somehow historically supported? No, it's not. It's just a touristy thing. Is Prague Zoo worth visiting? Great question, actually. Prague has a huge, amazing zoo that more feels like a theme park, to be honest. Because if you've been to other zoos elsewhere, it's just like cages with animals. Can feel actually very sad. Not a vibe of the Prague Zoo. Prague Zoo is like, hey, come here, here are tigers, here are lions. Yes, some of them are sleeping in the middle of the day, so I would recommend coming there in the morning when they're feeding times. And Prague Zoo is like a whole day affair because it's not in the city center, it's a little bit outside of the city center. You can take public transport. You can also take a boat, which I actually don't recommend because it takes ages, because you have to go through all of the locks. So yes, Prague Zoo is worth visiting for sure. And if you're curious about my favorite animal, there's this weird bird with huge beak and it just stares at you in a very menacing way. That's my favorite, I think. Is Prague known for fashion? No, not particularly. I think there is Prague Fashion Week. I've never seen anything related to that. I think they're just like hiding somewhere in the basement. I've been told actually by tourists from Slovenia that they have a annual Prague or Czech ball where they purposefully dress bad. I've never googled it, I've never verified it. So if you're from Slovenia, is that a thing? Really? Are you guys so mean there? Or was it a joke? Is Prague known for gingerbread? People do eat gingerbread here. There are a lot of gingerbread cookies sold at Christmas market, but is it like known for gingerbread? Well, there's one place, it's called Pardubice. We've actually been there, and they make their own gingerbread, but that's like Pardubice gingerbread. There's no such thing as Prague gingerbread. Hope that answers your question. Is there a beach in Prague? No. And everyone is very upset about it. I'll tell you that, because it gets very hot here in July and August, and we do want beach and the sea, but we don't have it. And finally, what makes Prague special? I feel like this is a rhetorical question, but I will still try to answer it. I feel like most people are surprised when they travel here. They usually are surprised that the city is that great. Like, they probably saw the pictures and they imagined it maybe in some way or another, but normally Prague exceeds people's expectations. I think it's just the combination of everything, right? Like architecture, history, food, that it's also like fun. There's always something that Prague can surprise you with, usually pleasantly. I think that makes Prague very special. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching this video. We hope you found it helpful. Of course, there are many other questions about Prague we can answer. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments down below, and maybe we can do part 2 one day, or we will just answer it in the comments. Alright, we will see you in our next video. Bye!